The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I knew you'd come.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Bring Freddy Krueger's world, Elm Street. We want to see Bray Wyatt's version of the Boiler Room.
My name is Dario Cueto. My relationship with the wrestlers is very special.
And he's hanging out with Masquerita Sagrada in what looks like his basement. And then his mom shows up with bagel bites. It's glorious.
Oh, that's awesome.
We are scientifically proven to be the best tag team, and not just in NXT, not just in the WWE, but in the entire universe.
It's always Eric Young and his pack of mercenaries. Always Eric Young and Sanity. Where he goes, they follow. And you see what they can do. Good. Eric Young will be in San Antonio. He'll be at TakeOver. Bring the whole family. Bring everybody. Because I'm going to knock them all down one by damn one.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the max.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max, episode 230, part 2. And tonight we are going to be getting into some great topics. Yeah, that's right. We've got some special quick hits for you this week. We've got a lot of New Japan. We've got a lot of also some WWE news, along with some other interesting things that you're not going to want to miss. I'm going to hold off and let you know all about those when we get to it. But also we're going to give into a special topic this week. Is WWE creating a monopoly? And how is it going to affect the wrestling business? We're going to get into that because we had a special article that came out this past week, and it kind of piqued our interest a little bit. So we're going to get into that article along with that topic, kind of discuss, how we feel WWE is going, what other promotions are going to do about it. Also, maybe some little TNA Impact talking here. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got some interesting stuff. This is week 2 of, their, I guess you want to call it, brand new anthem style of Impact Wrestling. So we'll be talking about that and everything that happened on that show, and along with crowning a superstar of the week, guys. So trust me, a packed show, lots of great conversations to be had. But before we do that, I want to let you guys know I'm your host, Gary Vaughan, and along with me is Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up?
Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And
sorry,
also,
I have kids crying on the other end of my ear, and I'm just like, I don't know if I need to attend to that or what.
Yeah, is there blood everywhere? I don't know. I'm trying to do a radio show here, but we'll figure that out.
We are doing this at a normal hour right now, so people, kids are awake and other things.
Yeah, so if you hear any noises, hey, it's a brand new thing for this show. We're usually doing this super late at night, or basically early in the morning, and, usually kids are asleep. But anyway, I just to let you guys know, W2Mnet.com, go check it out. A great website. It has lots of great written reviews, also has more than wrestling. It also has video game talk and a little football mixed in as well, so trust me, it's a really cool website. You're not going to want to miss a minute of it. W2M Network. That's right. That's the place you go subscribe if you want to get all our content. So go do that now if you haven't already. But, after all the shills, I just want to let you guys also know that we are having a lot of fun this week because of the fact we've got different shows involved for you guys. We've kind of been there almost every day, if you want to say it that way. Maybe Wednesday's the only day that we haven't been around. We have all those review shows that we do: Raw, SmackDown Live, 205 Live, and NXT. That's right. It's also now a separate show. Don't forget to go check all those out. If you're usually a listener and you're like, guys, you're not talking NXT. Now, we talked about it. Trust me. You just got to go find it. It's on this, subscription. Just go do it. Man, I'm, like you guys, it's kind of weird doing this at an earlier hour. My wife and daughter are actually out of town. My wife has a wedding that she'll be working on this weekend, and so my daughter and her went to go do that. And so I'm kind of by myself in this house, and it's kind of awkward, guys. I can't say that it's not kind of fun because I can watch horror movies and stuff like that, but then again, it's kind of really sad and lonely, and I guarantee you when it's bedtime, I'm going to be kind of like, this is awkward. So I'm not used to sleeping alone anymore, okay? Scooby-Doo, come protect me. So, Paul, if you get any calls like 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear me shaking, yeah, I'm scared to death or something.
I have to talk you down, huh?
Yeah.
That'll be a good time.
How are things going with you, Paul?
Just fine. Just fine. Just working, doing all the stuff that you usually do.
Yeah, that's kicking
Nothing
it
exciting.
Kicking it like usual. That's always nice. If it was exciting, Paul, there might be a little danger involved, a little worry. So this is the good times in life when you're not having to worry. So enjoy it. Sean, man, I know things are going on with you. I know you got all the kids over there this weekend. How is everything going with you, though?
Oh, okay. Just having to assimilate to having a new president now. We all have to deal with that. So, yeah. How about those riots, guys? That's the first thing we need to see. A bunch of riots happening. That's how this country works. No. I mean, it was nice not actually really having to watch that because I was at work. So I was like, good, this all happened while I don't have to watch it. So that I don't have to have somebody else, somebody telling me, oh, all this stuff is going on. But no, it's just whatever. This week has been going kind of fast. So, yeah.
Well, you were right. Everybody's getting adjusted to a new administration in the White House over here in America. If you don't live here, you don't have to worry about that. But here in the States, you've got people who are, not happy, and then you got people who are happy. So that's the way it works. It'll all calm down. Just give it time. It's just right now there is noise to be made, and they're making it. So that's okay. Hopefully everybody's safe and minimal damage. That's what I say. So. But instead of worrying about all the big things in life, let's worry about something that's fun and entertaining. Let's talk some wrestling, guys. And I think it's appropriate that we kind of start out with our main topic here. Our main topic is really interesting because it comes from an article that was super cool because you had Kidani from New Japan talking all about what the plans are for New Japan, what's going on, everything going on. They talk to WWE. It just gets into a lot of different topics, and this is actually an article done by Weekly Pro Wrestling. So this is an article that's really fun, to just dive into and kind of see where New Japan's coming from on this front, because we've seen WWE have the UK tournament. And they're also, considering doing tournaments around the world and having different versions of WWE, maybe in Asia, maybe in Latin America. So this is a real, possible problem for other companies like New Japan, So let's get into it, guys. I mean, I know, Sean, you presented this article. I mean, what did you find most interesting out of the whole thing?
Sorry, I'm probably going to have to put myself on mute a ton. These kids are terrible. I mean, my kid's already loud as it is sometimes. Then when she gets around her cousins, it's just a mess. Yeah. And I don't know what happened now. One of them's crying and one of them's doing this. That's ridiculous. I just had to put myself on mute because one of them just screamed like crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you have to hear screams for part of this episode. Anyway, I mean, look, part of the main issue, the main deal with this interview is that, we've talked about plenty of times on here about how Kidani has talked about how he wants to do stuff in California. He already made those G1 shows, right, that we know about, and he actually confirmed that they will probably be qualifiers for the G1, so perhaps we're going to see, battles for the number 16 through 20 or 18 through 20, or maybe they add a couple more spots. They've had 22 before. I think they've even had 24 before. So it's possible that they add a couple more spots to have qualifiers in. Other than that, the main part of this article is basically Kidani explaining why he thinks this is a good idea and how he wants to not only take New Japan into doing some shows over there, he wants to basically do what WWE just did with the UK thing and have their own sort of promotion in America. And he wants to have this 75 to 25 American to Japanese split, because obviously for things to succeed here, you kind of have to have American English-speaking stars. It's already hard enough to get wrestling over here. If you try to sell foreign wrestling to somebody, it's going to be hard. The thing, he brings up his strategy. He brings up that whole thing we already talked about the TV market is going to change for the U.S. and how it's going to leave things open for things like what Kidani wants to do, and how he wants to, basically bring back the LA Dojo again, which both Samoa Joe was in, Nakamura was in for a certain period, several other guys. Yeah, low-key. So, it has history there of making guys, which would help them too. And just kind of like, basically, they're bringing the war to WWE on their soil. And that even they're going to try to sell New Japan product to TV stations for cheap and see who takes it, And, I mean, there's several other things. I can't, this article is huge. I can't sit here and divulge the whole thing to you. But we'll just kind of go around and I guess if we want to go around certain points that he talks about and kind of just discuss, might be easier than trying to, by memory, go through all this. But I guess in general, what do you guys think about do you think that what Kidani says here, do you think it could actually work, or is he being too ambitious at this point?
I don't know about too ambitious, and this isn't the first time that New Japan has danced around with this, right? Sean's mentioned the LA Dojo, which ran back in the early to mid-2000s for a couple of years, that produced a lot of great talent for him, and that was during a time when New Japan was, a lot of people call it the dark days, but not doing great business, right? It was sort of after Puro fell on its ass after the big boom in the 90s. And they crowned the Intercontinental Champion over here during a 3-day weekend up in New York and New Jersey area. So it's not the first time they've done this dance before. I think right now it's probably the best time ever to do it. They have so much interest in America. The shows they co-promote with Ring of Honor do very well for Ring of Honor. So I can only imagine them promoting on their own would do even better. And granted, you're already marketing to a niche, but you have a lot of people who are interested in, and they're actively looking for other ways to jump into different kinds of wrestling promotions. So I think it's a good time to do it. Like I said, it's not. Dragon Gate has tried this too. Dragon Gate ran DG USA over here for a couple of years before that sort of fizzled out. So it's not like there's not history to build upon and see what went wrong. But just like I said, it's a good idea to do it now, I think.
It is a good idea. And, I think, the really thing is doing just what you said, Paul, learning from your lessons and the history that, why it didn't work out, why you had to stop or, reconfigure things. And that's the big deal. Right now in America, wrestling is still not at its hottest. It's definitely grown. I think, from what we were even just a few years ago, I think wrestling is becoming more than it once was. It took that big valley and just kind of fell to the ground. But I think now it's starting to kind of pick steam back up here in the States. And I think if you're going to do it, now is the time to start those plans, because, we may actually be getting to a point eventually where wrestling is even more popular than as we're talking now. But I do have my concerns. I just think, they they get enough support? Can they find enough people to get behind this product and support it to where it can basically stay above water? I don't know. I don't know that answer. I think California is a great place to start, though, because I think you can, get some of those people who are diehards, like, we see with PWG, go to those shows and are willing to travel and are willing to go see them. So,
yeah, I think, part of it is that what are you actually trying to do, and also understanding that there's a part in here where he talks about, well, we're possibly discussing options of, well, this gives the opportunity for guys to decide if they want to tour here, if they want to make America their home for part of the year, or things like that, and how much are they going to have to use guys like Okada, Tanahashi, Naito, Shibata, all these guys to even generate interest, because the July 1st and 2nd shows, they have to be New Japan. They have to be the New Japan that we see on New Japan World. Meltzer even makes a point somewhere in where he's analyzing this thing, where he talks about how there was a show that came, I don't remember which one it is, that came and they got mad. The crowd booed at the fact that they had a foreign announcer. Oh no, it was WWE going to Japan. There was a point where the Japanese crowd booed because they had a Japanese announcer, and they wanted the WWE announcer because they wanted the authentic WWE product coming to see them, right? So, and if Japanese fans are doing that, imagine what smarky American fans are going to do. So I think you got to make sure you bring everybody at that point. You got to bring everybody to those July shows. And you're looking at arenas that are small. You're looking at arenas that is probably going to sit like 2,000 people, the way that they have that seating. And so, is this the type of arena you're going to try to run? Are you going to be smart about this? Are you going to run these small arenas all the time? Or are you going to try to run these big 5,000, 6,000, or even the basketball arenas? What are you going to do there? How are you going to deal with when WWE, because here's the thing, right? When WWE finds out that they're doing this, what's WWE going to do? They're going to start figuring out how to book shows for NXT in Long Beach. They're going to figure out how to, WWE themselves are going to start running California more. They're going to do all those cheap-ass things they can do, right? Because this is their territory. They're the United States product. How is Kidani going to deal with that? Is he going to just go, okay, well, we're going to go, whatever the equivalent of Eddie Dean's Ranch is, we're going to go get that and run New Japan this week, because the arena that we normally run New Japan in, WWE took it. Or is he going to, try to fight him head on and get into this big old ordeal and whatever? How is he going to deal with the competition when that arises? How is is this going to be, are you going to be bringing guys from Japan and having them be in the United States for a long period of time to try to get this thing over, and then thus undercutting your Japanese market, which is more important at the end of the day? Or are you going to just kind of, okay, well, they're going to show up every now and then you're really just going to try to rely on the American talent to get people to really be interested in this, basically making it like your version of NXT or something? If they can get it to be that, I think it can succeed. If they're going to constantly need the New Japan guys that we all know and love to come over here all the time, it's going to start fizzling out, because they can't possibly do that constantly.
So, from everything that I remember from reading the article, he wants to start out in these small 1,000, 2,000 people arenas and see where it goes. And that's honestly all you can do with this, right? Is see how much interest you can gauge this year and then take it forward next year, which he also mentions that he really wants to ramp it up next year, which is all great. The roster over here, if they do run a American-specific thing, he thinks it would be the same idea behind what New Japan and Japan runs, where you have 75% Japanese talent, 25% American. This one would be the flip side. So you have 75% American, Canadian, or just North American in general, 25% Japanese, and you run it from there, and people could travel back and forth depending on where they feel like working or what they want to do. And I don't imagine you'd ever get Okada or Naito or any of the big stars in this American New Japan promotion, but more than maybe a weekend, maybe 2 weekends a year, right? And that's totally fine because they're using them to build New Japan over in Japan, because it's not like they're the undisputed king over there, right? You have Dragon Gate coming up on you. All Japan and Noah are picking up steam again. And really, all these independents around there, a lot of them are starting to do good business now. Big Japan's a good one. And some of these other guys around, too. So it's not like they can just rest on their laurels over there either. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But he does have somewhat of a plan ready to go forward, and he seems to be willing to talk about it very openly with the wrestlers to get their opinion on it, too. So I think it's such a differently ran corporation than what you get with the WWE. Not to say that WWE never has plans, but they're much closer with the talent just because they're a smaller thing. They're not a publicly traded company as far. Oh no, they are this year, right? Or last year, as of last year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They have that relationship there.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, if his goal is to be smart about this, then I think it can work. I worry about the fans wanting too much, and then them trying to either accommodate or them saying, okay, no, you're going to deal with the fact that, hey, we can't bring Okada over here every time we have a show because he has other obligations or whatever, or Naito or whatever. And how is this going to affect the ROH stuff? Because that's more shows that they're now having to bring them over here for. So let's say this thing is successful. Do you want to undercut now your own product to serve ROH? So it is that what we talked about before when this first ever came out that there was whispers of this happening. And then me and you talked about, well, could they ever sever those ties with ROH? I wonder if this makes them go, well, we got what we needed, guys. Thank you for all the help or whatever, but we're doing our own thing now. And where does that leave ROH?
It's sort of out to dry, where they've already very much cut themselves off from a lot of different relationships in this past month already. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly does bring up that point, because if you have an American touring brand in California, you don't necessarily need Ring of Honor to send your young boys over to have excursions. You still have CMLL, and now you have your own territory that you get more of the direct profit from. So, yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It's a great point what this would do to ROH. And I mean, ROH is already kind of cutting itself back. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I just don't I mean, I get it. I get it from Sinclair's point of view, right? It's the same thing with WWE. You don't want to help Flow Slam get more popular because that hurts you. But then you're also limiting where these guys can work, and then the next time their contract comes up, they go, oh, well, I can't work here, 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 here. Flow Slam keeps signing up all these companies, so I can't work almost anywhere. So what the hell am I supposed to do?
That's just the problem, though, and Ring of Honor is sort of starting to take a turn towards trying to book itself as a more national promotion, and it can't do that because it's still run like an indie, right? They still run weekends. They still run a bunch of these other things that don't really jive with how independent wrestling here in the States work, where you have workers trying to work as often as possible so they can keep getting paid, so they can keep going. Because it's not like they're always making these big bills working all these promotions that they do. So if you're cutting yourself off from Flow Slam, say Powerbomb TV takes off and you never get into that, and you obviously have whatever WWE's building up everywhere, it could get really dicey. And if you lose the New Japan relationship, you kind of lose a big part of what makes ROH so interesting to watch these days, I think, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's getting so muddy because of all these different stipulations now, and that's a big issue. It's going to hurt these guys when it comes to making money. It's going to hurt also, I think, some of the promotions that are doing this, because I think, you're seeing big names taken off their card, because if they want to reach higher aspirations, even if you want to call even Ring of Honor a higher aspiration, maybe, that's going to be a situation where now these smaller companies are just kind of going with just regular guys, and they don't have the names they want unless they're depending on some old veteran who, honestly, WWE or even Ring of Honor not interested in, even New Japan. So I think that's going to be kind of a stinky situation, even though Flow Slam is great because you get so much, just by paying a little bit of money. It's great and excellent for you as a viewer. But is it going to be so great if you're not getting the names that you want? Is it going to be so great if it's kind of watered down in a way? I don't know. It's just maybe a weird way to look at it. But muddying the water the way this is all working out is not good. I mean, we went from being really excited to now you're just kind of like, oh boy, it's just gotten to be a headache a little bit.
I think there's still a lot to be excited about with Flow Slam and everything. It's just... Flow Slam, if you have people start cutting each other off from working with promotions affiliated with Flow Slam, then you're going to have a lot more people going to them, right? And then they're going to take up most of the interest, and you're going to lose some of these other promotions. But if that's how the way the business goes, then that's just how it goes, right? I mean, there's nothing really you can do about it as far as a fan perspective goes.
Well,
it's like WWE, they're doing it now.
Yeah.
With the UK guys, they just did it twice. So, I mean...
Well,
this is going to happen with Flow Slam.
Exactly. Colt Cabana just talked about this on his podcast, and he was talking about, he was actually mentioning a few things about, Jack Gallagher, blah, blah, blah. But the whole point of his thought process was, you know what? It's next man up. The next independent wrestler will get out there and make a name for himself. If they take the bigger stars, guess what? We're going to build more. Mm-hmm. And there'll be more. So I get that point. I definitely understand. You're really, still going to get the same excitement. You're going to get to see a bunch of different, situations take place where they're going to be great matches. But those names that you once wanted to see and hear, you're going to kind of have to just go to one place for them. You're not going to get the opportunity to see them on multiple places like you could. And I think of guys like Drew Galloway. Galloway's done a lot of wrestling in a lot of places. And he's had a great year doing that.
Well, it's why he won't sign with TNA.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly... It's the problem of now that's going to start cutting on guys like him who enjoy making the rounds, getting everywhere. And these kind of situations are going to cut him off from signing with either a bigger promotion or, cut him off from, Ring of Honor or anybody else he would have made interest in signing. So...
Yeah, I mean, I guess to kind of close the book on the New Japan part before we get into the WWE part is, New Japan, let's be honest here, just very much like what Paul mentioned with Dragon Gate, which, Dragon Gate, I mean, and it's also, we got to remember, Gedo can't possibly book New Japan and then whatever is going on with this promotion. So does he send Jado over to the American one, or does he have an American guy that he feels comfortable with doing that? And that's part of what made Dragon Gate USA wonderful, is because you have Gate Sapolsky booking it, and you had all these different guys wrestling on the show, and you could bring in the Dragon Gate guys too. To make my point, I guess, is that it's not going to kill New Japan if this thing doesn't work. Right? There's the most important thing for New Japan is Japan. So as long as for some reason Kidani doesn't get super aggressive and start undercutting Japan to service the USA, then they'll be fine. And they've been through troubles before, like Paul said, so it's not like there is rumors going around that the reason why this may work, period, is because they might have some big money guy from America that could help them, but no idea on who it is, and don't know that we will find out until this is actually happening or whatever. But we'll have to see. Obviously, money talks, power talks, and making sure you get this done right. And the getting things done right part, you kind of have faith in New Japan because they're getting their company done right over there. You have to think that they know they bring that strategy over here. And let's say that they are able to sell their product cheap or whatever. It could work. I just worry about when Vince gets aggressive and he feels like he's being attacked, that dude goes crazy.
Yeah, he does. He will be very protective, and I think if there are any moves on, especially in America, in the States, I think Vince will be very protective and start really working hard to, shut those guys down any way he can.
I do want to bring this up. Of JR said that he would have loved to be able to simulcast on Access. Like, let's say, the first line of G1 or the G1 final or something. If it couldn't be one of the bigger shows that they do. And obviously because New Japan has the thing with their own English announcers, with Kevin Kelly and now Cyrus from ECW, who's going to take Steve Carino's spot. They can't do that, but if they wanted to make a bigger splash in the U.S., shouldn't they be doing things like this? You really want to catch up the product to the point where you're watching Access and you're watching what you're watching, kind of like what they did with the Wrestle Kingdom, where if you're not being able to do it simulcast right there live, why not let JR and Barnett do it one night, and then you show it that evening on Access or something. I don't know. I just feel like you have something there that can really help you, even though I know not a lot of people get Access TV. I don't know. You might have a chance of reaching more people that way. I mean,
you have a better chance of reaching people, but doesn't that cut in on New Japan World? I mean, because
the TV company they work with in Japan, TV Shy, doesn't even get them live. There's no way America is.
Well, I meant more let's say that they got the whole where let's say JR and Josh Barnett got to replace Kevin Kelly and Cyrus for one show, if not more than one show, and they get the TVSI spot basically because TVSI got to air, I think, Wrestle Kingdom at 2 a.m. or whatever. I don't know what it was. It might have been midnight or something. What if Access got to do that where they taped whatever the show it was at 5 a.m. and then that night at 8 p.m. Eastern in the U.S. we get that show on Access?
I don't know if they're willing to go in on that. I don't know how expensive that is, first of all, and I assume cost has a lot to do with it. Secondly, I don't see it. That's not usually how Japan thinks of things, right? You have, the Wrestle Kingdom thing, I think might just be an aberration because you have so many other promotions that film for pay-per-view and then their shows end up on Samurai TV or something like that weeks, months, more than a month later. It gets ridiculous sometimes. So television and wrestling in Japan is just done so much differently than here in the States. I don't know if that idea crosses their mind or if that's even something they even entertain the thought of if they don't have that in Japan yet.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be this year because, even Kidani said that this whole deal that we're talking about, aside from those 2 G1 special shows, he's thinking about this for 2018 and beyond.
Right.
This would have to be in 2018 if they even thought about it because they already have, their entire calendar that they showed at Wrestle Kingdom, all those shows will also have English commentary.
Right.
With Kevin Kelly and Cyrus, so they can't really, tell them, oh, hey, guys, we thought of something else. We're going to knock you off. But it is an interesting idea of perhaps this is something you have to do if he sells it to another company that more people do have. If Kidani comes around shopping around New Japan to these TV markets, And he says, okay, well, we're going to get off access because nobody freaking has access. And especially, Comcast doesn't even carry the channel, and that's the biggest cable provider in the entire, whatever. Let's say they get on something like Spike TV, just for throwing shits and giggles, okay? Would that be a case where you go, oh, we might have to start thinking about doing something like this because the fans can already order New Japan World? How do you get them to watch what's on TV if it's not something that's relatively close, right? Like if you're trying to get people to watch something that's 9 months old, eventually they may figure that out and they may not watch. I don't know. I mean, you do have a lot of people watching Access, but I'm just...
Even if it ends up on Spike and people are getting something delayed that they can watch live on New Japan World, that's what Kidani wants. They want people over on New Japan World because they get the more direct cut of that, right? Like they get that entire 8 whatever. So I would think that would only work to their benefit because you hear Kidani all the time talk about how WWE's over-reliance on cable TV rights is going to end up being their worst enemy whenever the cable bubble bursts, sooner rather than later. I don't know how soon it's going to be because I'm sure cable cutting gets way overplayed on the media, but it is a thing, and it could eventually go the way of the dinosaurs, and not tomorrow, but certainly you look at 10 years from now, it could very well be possible. So I don't know if that, like I said, I don't know if that plays really big into his plan because I think the WWE's the same way. If they had delayed airings and if you could possibly watch Raw live on the network, I think people would go to the network, and that helps them out more. So, if WWE wasn't getting paid ludicrous amounts, I have to wonder, would they just film Raw and SmackDown the whole time for the network? So,
yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they would ever do that. There would always be some kind of channel that would pay them some kind of rights fees though. Where I don't know if they would ever do that, but
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just imagine Monday Night Raw on Pop TV.
So let's talk about the WWE side of things, right? WWE they are basically trying to sign up anyone and everyone. Now they're making these UK, and they got ICW for the network. They're in the process of maybe getting OTT, who is officially away from FloSlam. They only had a 2-show deal, apparently. And Progress to also be part of that. We're going to be on demand on the network. They want Pro Wrestling Eve, which is an all-female from London, and they're even interested in Shimmer, but apparently Dave Prazak wants something that WWE's probably not going to go for. I don't want to say it because that was told in confidence to a good friend of ours, and I don't know that he wants that said on the live here for everybody to consume. But it's just really crazy that WWE's all of a sudden they went from. I mean, they flip flopped a ton on this. Do we want indies on our network or not? But that's not even just it, right? They're trying to sign everybody they possibly can. They got NXT going. They got the 205 Live. They got the UK thing going. There's now surveys out in Latin America for a possible Latin American tournament. If not even trying to add, say, like a CMLL to the network. I mean, goodness. Like, this feels like WWE's just trying to be a monopoly. They're trying to maybe not take out everybody, but they are really trying to make sure that they are that thing that you're thinking about 24/7.
It reminds you a lot of Vince taking out the territories. How he was able to basically cripple them, and I think the new territory system became so global because now, everybody is able with everything we just talked about, right? The internet, your phone, anything you have, social media, you can get wrestling promotions for just about anywhere in the world. So now this is a new hurdle. Back in the 90s and 80s, that wasn't around. either got in your car and went to a local promotion, or you sat at home and watched WWE television. So now this is a big hurdle. This is a new territory system that Vince wants to take over, and they're throwing bones to people and trying to make it work where they'll control everything. I get it. I mean, it's just a very, Vince McMahon way of handling business. I don't know. I think it's a little bit far-fetched to think that they're going to be able to do what I think they want to do. But then again, I can't put it past Vince. He did what I don't think a lot of people thought he could.
I don't think it's so much about control, right? I think it's so much about having says and things and having a system in place that ultimately feeds up to that main show. So they're reaching out to UK, first of all, because it's the second biggest global imbiber of their product outside of the US, right? They're number 2 as far as who watches the most. They have a booming independent scene going on, which I think helps out a lot because it's not like Mexico isn't. It's not booming right now like it has in the past, like everybody in the 90s seemed to. So you create deals with ICW and Progress and over-the-top promotions in Ireland. And for one, they give you very distinct feels. But two, they give you different ways to cultivate talent that you don't have to waste your own money on, right? You're giving them money to be on your network, and you're giving them more attention so you have more people that get familiar with them before you bring them over to NXT or you put them on your main shows or whatever you do with these guys on these deals that you make promotions with. I think it's so smart business-wise because you're helping out promotions, and in turn, you're getting a lot out of it, I would think, because I would have to imagine that these guys, if they don't sign them to their UK contracts like they have all the guys on the UK tournament on, that they at least get first crack at trying to sign them, right? And I imagine that would be true no matter what, but this way you have it on paper.
Well, I mean, so let's bring up the argument that everybody's going to say, right? Well, they're not really helping them. They're just using them so they can get their talent. Well, I mean, isn't that the point? Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole reason NXT exists. NXT is this great product, but it exists to service the main brand. Same with these guys. Now you're just outsourcing it to different promotions that have already established relationships with fans in the UK, that already have reputations for putting on certain types of shows, like ICW is almost an ECW throwback. Progress is a very counterculture sort of thing to what happens in traditional UK promotions where they rely a lot on foreign talents to anchor the top of the cards, and UK talent sort of gets a shaft, where Progress is the exact opposite, where American talent is almost shunned, which is sort of fallen out the window a little bit recently with Matt Riddle winning the Atlas Championship. But you have all the guys at the top, and everybody who's ever held the Progress Championship is English or Welsh or Scottish, or they're from the UK area, so all those countries over there. It makes so much sense to do this.
So for the ones that say what you're really doing is you're hurting those companies, you're not really helping them. I mean, is it beneficial then for that company to get in bed with WWE knowing that at the end of the day, WWE has its own self-interest at hand here?
I'm not going to say, because I don't know how much money they're going to get from this. I think that's a big deal, because when you look at Progress or ICW, who have their own subscription services already.
ICW is getting $50,000 a year.
And I don't know how much that's going to help their overhead or not, but I can't imagine. I imagine that's more than what they're getting from their subscription service, and it takes a cost off of them of having to upload and all that stuff, but even if it is negligible to do it. So, does it hurt? Maybe in the long run it does. Ultimately, though, you're increasing name value. ICW, for example, they ran the freaking Hydro, which Raw runs out of whenever they go to Ireland. So, and they're still planning on running the Hydro in the future. So I don't think ICW's ever been any hotter. Progress they've sold out every single show since they've opened. Progress has not had a sellout. I can only imagine adding your name on the network and getting more attention in the UK will allow them to run bigger buildings. In the short term, it probably makes a lot of sense. In the long term, if you get bigger or you think you're big enough to run on your own, that's where you run into a National Wrestling Alliance situation like you have with WCW or ECW or all these other promotions that started bailing off the boat in the 80s and 90s because their name became bigger than the NWA. I don't know if that's ever going to happen with WWE, but it certainly could happen to where it's like, okay, I don't need this deal anymore. Let's bail.
Yeah. That's the thing, with Vince, the way he changed his mind, you never know, right? He says, this isn't working, this isn't drawing attention, I'm wasting money here, whatever, and they find a way to get out of the deal, and nothing on their end, but how much did it really wind up helping ICW or Progress or whatever, depending on how long they stay with each other. And, these other promotions, if they were also to give their library or whatever, it's just, I think you do have to worry about it, right? I think you do have to, that does have to enter your mind because let's not forget, Vince did the same thing, right? He partnered with some of these promotions. And then all of a sudden, he quit paying the guy from Stampede. I just partnered with you. I made this All-American Wrestling channel so that I could basically see all of your talent and then I could go and cherry pick all I wanted. Mm-hmm. Right? And, obviously this is business for WWE.
Right.
But you do worry about it's hard not to worry about, oh my God, is WWE going to be the only company out there that we're really talking about? Because they go and grab everybody's talent.
Ultimately, I don't think that's true because there's only so much television time and the audience that they cultivated already. Usually, like I said, independents are in a golden age right now, and people are out there looking for alternatives because they're not satisfied with WWE's giving them. And ultimately, if WWE's the only guy left on the block, then you're going to have problems. But I don't think wrestling will ever get to that point.
Yeah, like I said before, and I already kind of mentioned this, is that, with WWE having a lot more influence in different parts of the world, in the UK being a big example, it is going to affect that scene a bit. It's not going to be, maybe the end of it, and you're still going to have people going and finding, whatever Rev Pro or whatever they want to find that's not in WWE's umbrella. It still may not be as great as it could be because of the fact that WWE is stepping in their backyard, taking talent away, not allowing talent to be around. We're already seeing WWE, and they've already pulled, Pete Dunne from an IPW show because they're part of Flow Sports. We also saw, even, think about social media and podcasting. WWE's already pulled guys like Mark Andrews, Trent Seven, and Pete Dunne away from podcasts because they were going to appear on WXW.
Most of their guys don't ever do podcasts as it is anyway.
Well, yeah, but that's because WWE says no.
Right.
They don't allow that to happen. And so you're basically controlling these guys and taking them away, but you're also, preventing them from hitting those shows into the independent realm. Sure, you'll grow other stars, but, it's just kind of sucks.
You're also giving them money that they didn't have before either, so.
It's true. And that's also going to, always in the independents, you're going to have people reaching and trying to get out. So I'm just saying, it's going to affect. It may not be a major collapse or anything, but it's still going to affect the independent circuit.
I'm not saying any of this ever wasn't going to affect it. I'm just saying from WWE's point of view, this just makes all the sense in the world. And I think for the promotions that partner up, at least early on, it makes a lot of sense too. You're getting a flat rate of money. You're giving your guys way more exposure, thus the ability to turn them into bigger stars, which will inevitably turn into larger draws for you. I in the short term, it makes sense for both parties. Now, long term, we don't know, right? You can't speak for what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road, but you look at it right now. I think it makes so much sense to get in bed with them. And like I said, the NWA didn't last forever. It lasted a long time, and then you had people jumping off the boat, and that still happens to this day. So it's not unprecedented for a big conglomeration that WWE is trying to create to fall apart because other people decide that it's time to go into better business for themselves.
Well, and also you got to worry about, if you're WWE, if you do it too much, right? Mm-hmm. If you sign too many of these companies and then also you got WWE UK, WWE Latin America, WWE Japan, WWE China, or whatever. Like if you got all these things that are the WWE brand, there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to be like, you know what, I want something that has nothing to do with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just get them to turn off WWE completely because everything's so WWE. It's like everything is so McDonald's. Everything is, like you don't want to go to that ever again because you're just so tired of it. And, WWE does have to worry about that. And I do think that they need to do what they're doing. Like Kidani said, right? You have to because as much as all this stuff is, TV is going more and more and more to on demand. I want to watch this whenever I want to watch it. It's not about, I don't care. We as consumers, we don't care about the TV. Oh, well, the advertisers you need the advertisers in order to have the shows because the TV doesn't make any money if the advertisers don't want to pay, right? Same thing with wrestling. Why TNA has bounced around because the advertisers don't want to pay for wrestling. Kidani could run into that problem when he tries to sell New Japan. Wrestling is already hard enough to get advertisers for, and WWE, the only reason WWE gets K Jewelers to be their sponsor is because Comcast figured out that the only way WWE is going to get good sponsors is they said, hey, guess what? You're no longer just paying WWE. You are now, when you go get an advertising deal with us, you are getting an advertising deal with NBC Universal. This means you go to all of our shows. So even if you don't want to be on WWE, tough luck, you signed a contract. So, whereas with TNA, they could only get, 5 reruns of the barbecue guy commercial because that's the only people that wanted to sponsor TNA. Okay? So, like, we don't have to care about that part. All we care about is when's 2 o'clock coming so I can watch my thing on Hulu. Because I want to watch this show right now. And more TV is going to that. There's going to be more things probably like Sling TV and PS View that are going to come up in these next 3 years. And who knows what we're going to be watching TV on in 5-10 years. Right? The cable system as we know it may not exist. So if you have an arm in Japan and you have an arm in Latin America and you have an arm in the UK and you have if your TV rights fees dwindle, you've got so many other resources of income that hopefully for you are working at that point because you never know, people can get burned out of that too. And you are able to sustain yourself. So it's hard. This is a hard thing to do, but I think the people that are worried about it, I don't think you're wrong in being worried, right? And saying, okay, I'm worried about there's a lot of things are going to become WWE controlled. But I think there's always going to, like Paul said, there's always going to be something out there that's not WWE controlled. There may never be a WCW to WWE again, but there'll be something there. And that's one thing I'm worried about Kidani. Is he going to get so headstrong that he's going to try too fast to become WCW that he doesn't notice when WWE comes and just blows them by? That's the only thing I worry about. Is just don't get too big ahead. But, I don't think we have to go crazy about this monopoly thing because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think, and if they ever did, it would be such a slow process that, would wake up and it'd be there. I think that they would not just jump on this immediately because I think a lot of people would kind of reject it like you're saying. They would kind of say, there's too much WWE.
And they're a corporation, they move slow.
Yeah.
They can't just go and jump into the Latin. We don't even know how long that UK thing was in the process. We have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
6 months, right? This women's tournament is now going to happen in the summer. How long has that thing been in the works?
How long did it take him to get CWC off the ground?
Right.
It's true. Very true. So, and there's lots of interesting things. I mean, this is definitely a great conversation. Honestly, this is a conversation we may even look back on, like we talked about down the line and say, wow, this is what we thought, this is what's happening, and it may mirror exactly what you guys have talked about, or it may be something completely different. I don't know, but it's going to be a process. It'll take time. So there's no reason to, flip out or anything. It's just an interesting convo to have. And I love the article that Sean brought to us and just kind of gave us some food for thought. So, let's move on, guys. We've got some quick hits to get into. And also later in the show, we'll be jumping into some TNA Impact. But now let's talk some wrestling news. Let's get into more next.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Alrighty, let's jump into this thing, and let's start off by talking about some, possible rumors and moves in the wrestling world. I mean, we keep talking about promotions. Donovan Dijak seems to be on his way out the door of Ring of Honor, kind of like Kyle O'Reilly. That's some interesting news, but if he does leave, you're probably not going to hear from him for a little while. Kind of like you haven't heard anything from Ray Rowe, haven't heard anything from Kyle O'Reilly himself for a while. And the reason you haven't heard from those guys apparently is because WB doesn't really want to mess with or touch any individual that has left any other promotion until the 60 days is up after their contract runs out. So, I mean, I mentioned those three names. They're possible being tied to WWE. What do you think about this policy? I mean, I think it's a smart move. It's very, very corporate. But also, I mean, how do you think this is going to affect the future? And you think guys are going to want to wait around for the 60 days to be up?
When it comes to guys like Dijak, who I think WWE has a very large interest in because he has the size and the athletic ability. They have the size that they love, and they have the athletic ability that fans love. I think he's a superstar in the making. When you look at these other guys, and it's not to say that Ray Rowe couldn't succeed, but I think him and Hanson would work so much better just because WWE does need tag teams. You look at them, and they have a lot to offer you. And if you want to wait out the 60 days just to make sure you don't run into any legal mess, I think that makes a ton of sense. It's the same reason why WWE has the non-compete clauses on their contracts. It makes sense. It really sucks for Ring of Honor that they're starting to lose these guys because of decisions that they're starting to make in regards to Flow Slam, which I think is part of the reason why Dijak is leaving. They lost ACH, not because of the Flow Slam deal, but because of a bunch of other stuff. He was another big star they were grooming. Excuse me. So you have all these guys that you're either highly invested in, like a Dijak, who looked to be somebody they were touting to have a big year now with the Exodus, or Kyle O'Reilly, who they spent all of last year creating into this top throw star that they could have. And for them to sort of up and leave is really going to start hurting them. Really, really going to start hurting them. So they better be banking on this top prospect tournament they have coming up to create somebody big.
I mean, all this does, and it's not an official non-compete, right? It's WWE, because let's in sports, we don't think about this. And all you get in sports normally is you get like some kind of $15,000 fine or whatever, and maybe a draft pick gets taken away. If we're talking about within a league, right? We don't really know what would happen when you're talking about going from one promotion to another that doesn't talk to each other. Basically, it's called tampering in any kind of, and you do this you would do this in a regular like workplace or anything like that. But like, you can't. If the reason they do this is because basically Sinclair's legal team said, okay, well, the only way that you're talking to these guys in order for you to sign them as soon as they get off their contract is you're talking to them while they're still contracted to us. Well, guess what? That's illegal. We're going to go after you. So now WWE is like, well, we're going to wait 60 days or whatever it is that Sinclair deems is worthy of, we're not going to get in trouble for this, or they deem, or their attorney says, okay, well, if you give it 2 months, there's no way that Sinclair can prove that you were talking to them or whatever. And let's be honest, most of the time, WWE itself is not talking to them. It's Sami Zayn went and talked to Kyle O'Reilly, or Kevin Owens talked to Kyle O'Reilly, or, whatever. It's technically, that's not illegal. But they can say that, look, these are WWE guys, or whatever, it can get into some stupid legal thing that you don't want to get into. So basically what ROH is telling them is, okay, you're not going to be getting the paycheck you were getting from here, so now you're going to have to go work indies by itself, and let's see if WWE really signs you in 2 months. And then guess what ROH gets to do if one of these guys comes back with their tail tucked between their legs? Oh, you don't get the money you were getting before. So then they have to decide, okay, do I want a regular paycheck from ROH, which is less than what I was getting? Maybe they won't do that. Maybe they'll say, okay, we will give you what you had before. Well, now you're going to get, and they learn that, oh crap, well, next time this comes around, maybe I won't do that. So this makes them have to think about their decision instead of just saying, okay, well, I'm gone, I'm going to WWE.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just so interesting because, WWE, does look into so many different guys. And I think, you could have some wrestlers that see some of the circulation of rumors and have people come and talk to them and get just excited right away. And, that's a lot of risk. Like you're saying, Sean, it's a huge risk to take that chance and to give up what what you've done for that bigger salary, for the the bigger exposure. But you also have to think in that time that you're gone, are they still going to be interested, or did someone change their mind? Did someone kind of figure?
I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't leave knowing. I'm pretty sure somebody within WWE would be telling them, okay, go ahead, we're signing you, don't worry about it.
You would hope, yeah, and you would hope so. I'm just saying, there's always that possibility of someone saying, I'm going to take the risk and go to the independent circuit, and maybe if I leave now and I give some time, maybe WWE will consider it, So I don't know. You're right, though. Most of the time they will know leaving that they are going to be part of WWE, But it's really interesting. And I think that, Paul kind of noted, some of these guys from Ring of Honor, they're huge. I mean, they're a big part of Ring of Honor right now, and losing them is a sad situation, especially if it takes place like we think it could with New Japan not really staying close to them. Ring of Honor, man, they will have a complete talent just drain. And they will be looking to hopefully find other people because it's a huge hit on them by losing some of these major guys.
I mean, let's be honest, some of these guys, they've had them for a little bit. Like Dijak, I think, is the one that really, because he's the guy relatively they just started pushing, and he was a relative guy that they, he got a little bit with the whatever, House of Truth, and then now we're like, okay, we're going to make you into something, right? And what sucks is Kyle O'Reilly almost goes down as a wasted opportunity because how long have they had Kyle O'Reilly? And they kept him in Red Dragon for so long, and they waited till this year to do something with him, and then he leaves. And it's like, oh man, how much does that suck? But he's been there a while. And then Adam Cole's one of those where he's kind of done everything. So you're losing his name, but for him personally, it's like, this is your time, right? Like, I think like it would have been the same thing with Jay Lethal. Like, if Jay Lethal left, he did a heck of a lot in 2 years or whatever for them. He's gotten to that point where, realistically, how much more was he going to be able to do or get any higher in that company? If he would have left, it sucks again, your name is gone. But as for your future, how much of your future was really going to be there for that? It just sucks that all of this happened. And then, Ray Rowe, how long would he have been in that tag team with Hanson if he ever got to do anything singles? which I think that sucks for Ray Rowe because Hanson already proved he can do it as a single with ROH. So for Hanson, this might end up actually working out better for him because he just gets to do that role that he already did once, and he did it well.
I mean, I think you nailed it for Ring of Honor. It's happening in such a short time that it looks like it's going to be a very large mountain to climb. On Ray Rowe, though, like he gets a lot of the singles push. For example, in Ohio and before there, and since he moved here to Texas, he wrestles a lot of the independents around here singles wise, like VIP wrestling here in Dallas. He's been the champion of, so he has a lot of singles experience elsewhere. It's not like he couldn't do it, and I think he'd do very well. It depends now, right? You have all these spots opening up over at Ring of Honor. It might be worthwhile to stay if they offer you enough money.
Very true.
That for sure. You know, WWE's looking
do you think Evolve got the better end of the deal, or did ROH get the better between Shane Taylor and Keith Lee?
I am a huge fan of Keith Lee. He has the look. I think he has the in-ring charisma. I don't know much about his promo skills because you don't really get to see a great deal of that in smaller indies. But in the ring, he is so good. And it may just be that I haven't seen enough of Shane Taylor singles-wise because Keith Lee is by far the more in-demand partner out of that team. But I definitely think Evolve got the better deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is, and you know, the way this is all working out. I mean, this is just crazy to see how we're seeing talent switch this year. I mean, it's going to be a completely different landscape by the end of the year. All these different wrestlers going to different promotions, and the way it's all shaking out. I mean, it's going to be nuts. And you know, what's also going to be nuts is to see what else WWE does in the future for their network, because you know we've seen a lot of growth in what they've tried to do. Of course, we just saw the UK tournament. WWE actually has sent out a survey to Mexico and their subscribers, and they want to find out from those people, you know, who's their, you know, favorite, you know, wrestling promotions. Would they be interested in a Latin American tournament? And, you know, maybe, you know, what else would they enjoy? So that's what's kind of cool. I mean, also, you know, that could maybe possibly end up with a partnership with CMLL or even AAA for WWE. What do you think about any of this?
I don't think there's any way in hell CMLL partners up with WWE. CMLL is older. It's a institution almost in Mexico at this point. I mean, it's been in existence since the 30s. They own Arena Mexico. They own other arenas throughout Mexico. Like they ain't going anywhere. They don't need WWE at all, unless they have aspirations of growing outside of Mexico, which I don't think CMLL has ever really had a great deal of interest in doing so. On the flip side of that, though, you have AAA, who has been very interested in trying to branch out, but they have so much office problems. I don't know if they're really worth jumping in bed with. So maybe you look at some of these other promotions around that you try to sign with. But CMLL has like Lucha Libre Elite is a CMLL promotion pretty much, or they have a lot to do with them because they run in arenas CMLL owns. And AAA, I think, still has that relationship with Perros del Mal, if I remember correctly. So those are your two bigger indies that I can think of off the top of my head. But that's not to say they can't find something out there. That's not to say there's not like great talent to be out there. Mexico doesn't have the same exposure to audiences that Japan or UK does, simply because I think it's easier to find those guys on the internet because you have people way more into those scenes than I think you do in Lucha Libre. And that's not a knock against Lucha Libre. I just think in my lifetime, it's been harder to find. I don't know if that's always been true.
I will offer this counter in that they just had a Spanish company buy Claro Sports and Modica's very well known in Spain for owning a lot of different things and very also known in soccer circles for owning teams, and I think they're involved with Real Madrid and whatever. So, like, they didn't have anything that it had to do with CMLL on their website once they did that. Don't know if this is going to do anything for what this means for them as far as their internet thing. Both these companies have other ties, though, that make it to where they would really have to consider, okay, how much is New Japan worth it to us? How much AAA owns Lucha Underground, or owns a part of it, or has some kind of interest? I don't know what the hell that is with Lucha Underground. So I think AAA is actually more not possible than CMLL, because Lucha Underground's on TV. WWE's not going to want a company that's, unless Lucha Underground goes under or something like that, then whatever. But I think with AAA having Lucha Underground already on TV, they have a thing with US TV. They're not going to want to get that involved. All we keep hearing with CMLL is that they keep losing more and more ground with TV and their internet show and all this stuff. All they're getting here, I think we need to make these things clear for people who don't understand what this is. This is a deal in order for WWE doesn't get to control what that company does. Mm-hmm. WWE just gets their show on demand on their network. So if CMLL wants to give them, on tape delay the show from 2 weeks ago, I don't really see how that really hurts CMLL, other than, hey, you just got a bunch of people that may never watch Lucha Libre to watch Lucha Libre. I'm not saying CMLL will do it, because there's a pride thing that goes with that. That's probably the biggest reason, is like you said, they are the oldest Mexican company. They probably won't do it just based off of that, but
not just Mexico. They're the oldest promotion in the world.
Yeah, but they do have partnerships.
Yeah.
And, this would just basically be a partnership that you wouldn't ever really have to mention in Mexico. It could just be something that WWE mentions. I don't know. It's like New Japan will show CMLL on for in Japan, mm-hmm. but you don't know that unless you have New Japan World. That's the only reason we even know. So I don't know. I think that if it's like what happens with New Japan World, well, this is only for America or something, or only for other places outside of Mexico, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's not a bad thing if you're getting some extra money in there.
I just, for CMLL, you own arenas, you own buildings, and a lot of Lucha Libre history has been built on just running random shows in different places. They're not going to lose anything by just running in buildings they own, right? Other than just having to pay the talent. And if they still have sponsorship deals, then obviously maybe you're not running on television anymore, but you can still be the same company without having to be a part of WWE, which I don't think CMLL would ever want any part of, because they're a big deal, right? They're the oldest name in wrestling. They're one of the bigger, if not the biggest name in Mexico. It's hard to tell with how much AAA has had problems in the recent years, but I mean, it's not. We're talking much bigger companies than guys in the UK, right? It's not independent scenes. These are major companies with a lot of stuff behind them and a lot of assets around them that they don't necessarily need to reach out to WWE to progress their name any further if they don't want to. And that's not to say I have any idea what kind of business these guys want to run. But for me, CMLL gets off on being old. They run championships that have been in existence in Mexico since Lucha Libre took off. They're associated with New Japan, who is a very big deal, and that still is around because their NWA relationship. Some of those
championships are associated with the freaking Mexican government.
Exactly. So there's so much wrapped up in CMLL being this vintage, classic, old school play. They haven't changed the way they book shows since the 30s. They're a very, very classic promotion. I just don't see it, right? At the AAA, I could, because you don't know what's going to happen with Lucha Underground. There's so much happening in that front office, especially since Pena died. It's so crazy with what's going on with them, especially whenever they look like they might break out 2 or 3 years ago on a much more international scale, and that's sort of been scaled back because of all these problems.
Now, let's talk about that. Let's get into Lucha Underground and these issues and the fact that, a once promising promotion seems to be heading in the wrong direction. And kind of expound on some of those issues, Paul.
Okay, so what we found here as far as Lucha Underground goes is that they're having ratings decline, which we've talked about on here before. So much so that it's 14% down from last year. And a lot of the reasons that it's being tied into is because, one, they don't have the same deal in Unimas anymore. They lost that, I think, after season 2 or somewhere during season 2, and they lost a lot of viewers that way. They've lost Court Bauer, who did a lot of the promoting for it outside of television and a bunch of these other things. So a lot of people are thinking that's why you don't see it talked about as much anymore. And you don't have any way to create these big, huge sponsorship deals to keep getting money into you when you're losing all these things. And the turn to a more sci-fi flavored product is another reason, which I personally love. I understand science fiction isn't for everybody, and there's a reason why it's such a niche product still. But, I guess thoughts on what Lucha Underground could do to turn it around, and thoughts on if Lucha Underground can turn it around.
I mean, me personally, I just kind of got behind, and then I don't have the time to go back and watch all the episodes. That's part of why I got behind on it. It's not because I enjoy the show. I enjoy the fact that it is a bit different. I enjoy that it's campy. It's also on the correct network for it to be that way. It fits in with all the other stuff that they have on that network. All the monster movie crap and all the... Not that the movies are crap, but just, you know what I mean. And all the action movie stuff. I mean, it fits just perfect with that entire channel. The problem is, it's that channel. That channel it's not in HD. Let me tell you, for a lot of people, something being in HD now is a huge deal for the casual fan. It may not be for us that we grew up on wrestling that look, I think I've mentioned on here, I've taped WWE from like 2002 to like 2006. And I don't know how many times I rewatched tapes, and it got to the point where I could barely see what the hell was on my screen, but I was watching it because I didn't know any better. We didn't have HD, It looked like that. It looked grainy. It looked like crap, But you watched it. So that's a thing for the casual fan. I think that's the thing, though. Like, we've talked about this a bunch of times. If they got another channel besides El Rey, guess what would happen? That network's executives will come in and go, okay, you can't do that. You can't do intergender. Basically, almost anything that's Lucha Underground will get taken away. So you'll appeal to more people and you get bigger ratings, but it won't be Lucha Underground anymore. So, like, for me, I think it's really hard for Lucha Underground to really, other than, and they've been apparently, El Rey's being in on more and more stations, more and more, like, networks, and it's still not working. I think, at this point, also, I think the seasons thing might be throwing some people off. They might feel like like me, where, oh crap, I feel like I missed some stuff here. So they don't have a way to catch up because, not everybody has iTunes and not everybody wants to pay a year or whatever, a month or whatever. I don't want to pay the iTunes fee. I'd much rather, if they ever get on Netflix, I'd much rather watch it that way. I don't ever use iTunes, so that's also me either. I don't ever use that service, but like, I think it's just, they need to be accessible. I think the Netflix thing needs to happen for them so that you can watch season 1, you can watch season 2, and you get into that crowd that go, oh my god, there's wrestling on this thing. And they watch and they go, oh, this is so cool. And what people like to do on Netflix, they like to binge watch. Right? Mm-hmm. So you binge watch all the way to season 3, and there's a break right now, so you can just go on El Rey and go on your on-demand and watch part of season 3, or I don't know how much is on there. And you can catch up, and then whenever they come back in the summer, you're good, right? I don't know, Gary. I think it's that, like, there might just be certain things that's just not going to appeal to everybody, and that might be hard to get the ratings going.
You got to think about, once again, it kind of goes back to how popular is wrestling in today's American society. We're not in the Attitude Era. Not everybody is talking wrestling around the water cooler. And that's a big part of this. And not only that, it doesn't have the exposure like a WWE does. You're going to have spatterings of people talking about wrestling here and there in places, but it's not going to be Lucha Underground unless you have a hardcore fan. Unless you got guys like us who, we're not the majority, and we're very much the minority. And that's a big problem. It's about promotion. The Lucha Underground has to promote and promote and promote, and they have to get the word out there. And if it's not putting ads, I don't know what else you can do. I think you're right on key, Sean, on Netflix. I even think Hulu it would be a great option because of the fact that they give you also an opportunity to catch up on things, to binge watch. And it also provides that,
if you get the commercial-free version, it's just like Netflix, pretty much.
Exactly. And not only that, I'll say this, I still watch South Park. I know, wow. I don't know how many other people still watch it, but I know, it's amazing. But I do still watch it. And I'll say this, I prefer watching South Park on Hulu compared to watching it on regular TV. Why? Because they're allowed to get away with more. On Hulu, they can cuss. I'm sure they may even do some jokes that they can't put on just Comedy Central. So, saying all that, I think that Lucha Underground fits in this perfectly because of what they do. They have those intergender matches, all that stuff that Sean just mentioned. It is a part of this company. But not only that, they can expound on it more if they really wanted to. On a Netflix, on a Hulu, and get away with it. And not only that, you draw people in. That's a big draw, especially people who love sci-fi. Let's just say that they're watching, a sci-fi show of some sort on Hulu or Netflix, and then underneath suggestions, Lucha Underground. That's a great way to get people, what is this? I'm kind of curious. What's Lucha Underground? That's the way to do it. That's the way to get the eyes on that product. Otherwise, I don't know how they're going to get it over. Because,
and what sucks, too, is they can't get on the Sci-Fi channel because guess who owns that?
Oh, yeah. You're right.
NBC.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing, if you have a deal and it's either between Netflix or Hulu, you take Netflix simply because Netflix has a reputation. Netflix has done such a great job cultivating its own original programming that if anything really partners up with Netflix, I think some of that rub splashes onto it. It obviously, if you're not on a network, it helps out a lot more, and maybe Lucha Underground gets some of that feedback there. A lot of what this article talks about, though, and I think it's really interesting to talk about, is identity.
I would also say Netflix has got the much, much bigger install base.
Yeah.
Every time I see a poll, Netflix is like 80-something% and Hulu's at like 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a very important thing too.
Very true. Very, very true. Talking about identity, though, you have the people who run the wrestling side versus the TV executives. The people who run the wrestling side obviously keep talking about wanting to tour and all these missed opportunities that they've had to, like if it was ever possible for them to run during WrestleMania weekend or, whatever else, merchandising, everything else, versus the TV guys who don't really care so much about that and are looking to try to just expand its TV presence. I think that's a big disconnect that we should take into account, too. If you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen trying to drag it a different direction, and you can't really do one or the other because you have people saying no to certain different things.
I think you also you're gonna have to drop the idea, like you did when you ran the fair and all that stuff. You're gonna have to completely drop the idea of we're gonna try to book these arenas that are gonna look at the temple and all that crap. Just book an arena and have a Lucha Underground show. At the end of the day, yes, the atmosphere and the look is cool, and but you can shoot a Bastard 7 in any bathroom. It's a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
That's where half the guys are at anyway. Or the locker room. Or whatever, which is the other part of where half the guys are at anyway. Or
didn't we just talk earlier during the New Japan segment about the Japanese audience booing the WWE because they brought in a Japanese announcer and it watered down
I don't think that's going to... but they went to that fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
People went to the fair and saw them. Like, at this point, this is different though. New Japan has the money. They're not worried about those kind of little petty things if that's what it came down to. Lucha Underground just needs to get themselves out there. And if you're worried about, I'm not going to do a tour because we can't book all these places that don't look at the temple, that's the dumbest reason not to tour. Now, if you're worried about, okay, well, we're worried about selling these places out, and we're worried about making sure all the guys are going to be there and all the women are going to be there, and you're really going to get what feels like Lucha Underground, you're not going to get the Lucha Underground C team going there, then okay, I'll give you that. But I don't know. I feel like there are certain things where you might have to just take the L, you know?
Talent's another thing you got to worry about here, too, because you have a lot of them getting real pissed off about not being able to run and not being able to sign with them. Like, we talk about this, I think, more often than not, how upset the talent gets with how Lucha Underground is ran and the fact that they sign these long-term deals and they can't really negotiate with anybody else because they have these other things they have to worry about.
That really sucks. You don't get paid, you don't get paid unless there's TV. So they're just sitting there and they can't, their main check is not coming in for, this is January, they're not going to run until like June. Think about how long that is. That sucks.
It's awful, and that's a big problem too, you know, just being away for so long. And I just, man, it's a bummer because of the fact that I think that they got a great product here. They got something I think people would get behind if they knew about it. But I still think there's that struggle to connect with an audience who still cannot find them, have heard of them. But let's be honest, a lot of people are lazy. They'll hear of it and forget about it 10 minutes later. You've got to find a way to put it in people's faces just to show them, even if it's just a logo, you've got to get it out there. That's the biggest problem we're having.
And that's why Netflix is huge, because you're already watching Netflix and you have somebody that checked it out and they go to their friend and they go, look, I watched this cool wrestling thing. Look, it's not like, you know, that WWE crap. This thing is like, it's got these luchadors and they do these crazy things and you got like lightning coming out of places and like, I mean, think about like how, I mean, you hear your friend talk about that, you want to watch it, right? It's awesome. Like, that's the problem. Like you're talking about, it's not in anybody's face because who the hell's watching like that? You know, to me, like El Rey seems like such a 90s channel. Like, I remember growing up with watching Bruce Lee movies and Chuck Norris and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all those, watching Bloodsport 20 times or whatever. Like, these kids nowadays, they're not watching that stuff. You know, so like that's the thing too. It's just I feel like maybe Lucha Underground is like a product of the wrong era or something. You know, that channel would have been so awesome when we were younger, and there'd be more people watching it. I don't know. That's just a me-ism there, but I know you did. I know you, Gary. You're a fan of all that stuff on that channel, so I know growing up you had to be watching that stuff.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I really enjoy it, and that channel is kind of fun to, you know, check out and watch some of that stuff. You know, it's just that, you know, that's me, but I know there's a lot of people out there who are not into that, and that's the problem. You know, getting eyes on that stuff where, unless you're into that kind of stuff, it's a big problem. And, you know, I just, you know, I try to tell people as much as I can, hey, you know, this is a great wrestling show. There's an awesome guy you need to check out who hangs out in the bathroom. I mean, he's amazing.
He's a guy with a dragon mask.
Yeah, you'll love him. But you know what? The things may not look so good right now with Lucha Underground.
I was going to say this, though, like what you brought up, Gary. Every time you have a wrestling promotion that's on TV, think about, okay, WWE owns this, like, 90% of the pie, or whatever, maybe even bigger than that, okay? Look at, like, the next thing. TNA, what is it getting? Like, 275,000 people, 250,000 people, 300,000 people, 350,000 people. It's going in that area, right? And that's because they're on Pop TV, but they've also had a bigger national brand that's been known for longer and whatever, But they've downgraded ever since leaving Spike or whatever. So you're talking about now Lucha Underground comes in. They're on the channel that like nobody gets. It's not in HD. That baseline for Lucha Underground is even smaller. And who knows what ROH's would be if you weren't counting all the syndication. But we saw what ROH's was when they were on Destination America. It was bad. So, I mean, just think of that. Every time you cut a piece of the pie and you go to a smaller promotion than even TNA, it's going to be ratings that are going to be low because there's only so many hours of the day. WWE's taken up like 50 hours of it, it seems like. When do you have time to watch TNA and Lucha Underground and ROH? Even if you even know that those places exist, first of all. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're very true. It is very true, and I think a lot of people, have to understand that point and realize, this is why Lucha Underground. I mean, I hope it's around for a long time, but there's a reason it could be going because of just that reason. So, if things couldn't get any worse for Lucha Underground, Evilise is pregnant, and I just want to say thanks a lot, Sean.
What? Man.
I thought you'd been hanging out with her too much, and here we go. Now she's pregnant. You wish for the baby daddy, don't you?
No, not that. I don't want. I already have one. I'm good with my one child. I'm fine.
No, but
I'm just saying, Evilise is cool, But don't blame me. I don't want any of that drama. I don't want to be on Maury. Don't be putting me out there. Oh man, could you imagine?
Oh, I could.
Sean, you are the father. Oh, damn it.
And I could, what's his name? Kel comes out. Oh, here it goes. Anyway.
Where's my orange soda?
Yeah, I know. That's an old reference no one else understands unless you're from the 90s. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, this is, interesting. It's one of those just things that, once again, is kind of sad, but then again, happy. It's good for her. Happy news for her, but sad we're going to be missing her. Let's jump into some of the rapid hits, guys. We're going to, get to these pretty quickly because we still have another segment to get through. Let's go ahead and talk about New Japan. Their subscribers have been updated. They have 60,000 at the current time, 15,000 outside of Japan, and 45 inside. It's kind of interesting.
Rough numbers. It's really interesting to notice the markup that they had. They talked about all the new subscribers very often, at least on the English side of the broadcast during Wrestle Kingdom, about how much the subscribers spiked going into that show. So hopefully some of that sticks around, and it'd be really hard not to try to stick around after what you saw in that main event for sure.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they did, like you said, especially with all these shows are going to get English commentary, so you don't have any reason to say, hey, I can't understand the Japanese, what they're saying. Nope, got your English commentary right there. I love the fact that you got more outside subscribers. And now what? So 60, so that'd be 15% of your subscribers are from outside Japan? That's pretty cool.
That is very cool, and I'm happy that they are, getting more push from outside Japan. We've already kind of talked about Don Callis, didn't we? I think we already mentioned it. Do you guys want to talk more about Don Callis joining alongside Kevin Kelly for the New Japan shows?
I don't know him outside the character, so I have no idea how he commentates to be able to tell you.
He's done commentary for both ECW and WWE, actually. Him and Kevin Kelly used to do... I want to say it was either Heat or something else. One of the shows...
Jacked or something?
I don't think it was Jacked. It was because Don Callis left WWE in like 99, 98, 2000, somewhere in there.
Oh, I do remember Kevin Kelly doing Heat for a while.
Yeah, and I think they did Heat like in the very early goings together. So they have experience with each other. Don, he's a tremendous announcer. I think we're all in for a treat. I haven't heard him in a long time, so I don't know if age or anything like that has sort of gotten to him or anything, but I'm going to be really interested to see how well they do together.
He's also friends with Kenny Omega, which helps.
Yeah, that's how. Apparently, that's how he got pitched to do the job with through Kenny Omega. So.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about promotions here on this show, and there are still rumors circulating about some more partnerships. WWE and Flow Slam are both interested in Rev Pro. We did Flow Slam, talk about Flow Slam earlier. They did sign up with Lucha Forever, along with Pro Wrestling Revolution.
I haven't. Well, Lucha Forever, nobody's heard. Their first show is actually going to be on Flow Slam. They're just opening up. Pro Wrestling Revolution's a lucha libre promotion in California, so I've never seen them. But I mean, I hope they do well over on Flow Slam. Rev Pro's interesting. They also have their own subscription service. They do pretty well on DVDs too. They're one of those promotions I mentioned earlier, in that they bring in a lot of top tier foreign talent to work with all the top tier English talent that started popping up. So there's a reason they've been doing big business since 2013, 2012. It'd be interesting to see WWE partner up with them. I would think Flow Slam might be more likely for them.
I mean, good that Flow Slam keeps signing up companies, right? They get more exposure. It's good for them. It makes for $20 worth it. I keep saying, hey, keep adding companies. Maybe we will invest in Flow Slam. So far, I still feel like, especially if WWE gets the companies they're getting, I feel like my network subscription is getting a bit more worth it than what the thing. I mean, Evolve is all the WWN stuff is worth that $20 by itself. I need to stop making jokes about that, but really, good for Flow Slam. Rev Pro. Don't sign with Flow Slam. You don't need to cost yourself the New Japan relationship. It's not necessary. I think for Rev Pro, it's either sign with WWE because of the exposure you could possibly get being on that network and the people you could be exposed to, or just stay where you're at. The Flow Slam thing. The thing with Flow Slam is, we're talking about the hardcores of the hardcores getting Flow Slam, right? Like, you are appealing to the same people that are probably already subscribed to you, or that would subscribe to you anyway. So, like, WWE is a different audience. You're getting a different audience with New Japan going to your shows. Do you want to risk losing that for perhaps less gain? Other than the money you're going to get, which that obviously matters. But, I guess it depends on the money. What do you want?
I mean, and it'd be interesting in the future to see if, the triangle between ROH, New Japan, and CMLL ends up working Rev Pro into all that, and if you can manage to get all of their content over to New Japan World, and suddenly you have another subscription service in the fight to not make WWE a monopoly.
I wonder if they'd consider that. Like, maybe not right away, but on delay. How cool would that be? If you could get Rev Pro stuff because you already subscribed to New Japan World or whatever, very much like ROH's shows that has New Japan wrestlers sometimes show up on there months later or whatever.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Well, and then one last thing before we move on past quick hits, I just want to say that this is a terrible piece of news. I know it'll probably devastate wrestling fans all around the globe. Darren Young is injured again. 3 to 4 months is how long he will be out with an elbow injury.
Poor guy just can't win, can he?
Good God. This guy gets hurt, comes back, gets hurt again. I feel bad for. I just feel bad for him. I don't know what to. I love the thing with Bob Backlund, and then just it died, and then he got hurt, and it's like, oh crap, poor guy.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a ton from him lately. So losing him again, I don't know that really affects my day-to-day wrestling entertainment, but
hurts him. I mean,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
on an ever expanding roster.
It's like it's all about me. I don't care. So whatever.
The only person that matters to me at this point, and that it hinders my wrestling entertainment week by week, is the fact that Ken Shamrock's not a part of that. So that's okay.
So you're not upset
getting
about
over
Bob
that.
Backlund not being on TV anymore?
I'm excited about that in a little bit. It's just I feel scared for the guy a lot of times. But okay, he's okay. I will say this. I mean, in all seriousness, Darren Young, this is a guy that has talent. It's just the fact that things just are not working out with him, and they just seem to be getting worse and worse, and injuries are not helping. I don't know. I could see this guy possibly wrestling, in the near future, possibly for ICW or someone else, because, yeah, it's just not looking good. So TNA are probably
seems like TNA. Yeah, I was about to say it seems like such a TNA.
I was just trying to. Throw
I mean, you know what? As long as they don't go all Orlando Jordan, which it would take a lot of stupidity to go all Orlando Jordan, but I think they could make that work. I mean, look what they're doing with Mr. Aaron Rex over there now. So,
well, I think Darren,
it's way better than freaking signing what's his name, the damn Baron Dax and whatever that they got over there.
Oh boy. See, Darren Young going to TNA, it's an instant feud with Aaron Rex. I mean, he can go in there and say, "Hey, you stole my gimmick," and go after him.
God, Gary.
So
let's not go
anyway,
down that road.
we're gonna move on.
Josh
here,
Matthews
guys.
already goes down that road every time Aaron Rex comes out. It's terrible.
I know,
That dude
Josh
needs
Matthews.
to get it together.
Number 1 on my Twitter feed, Josh Matthews.
He has me blocked because I just take shots at him every time. And
Yeah,
I don't care.
I should just praise him nonstop and just see how much he loves me. But anyway, let's move on. We have TNA to talk about. We don't just need to, chit chat about it. We can actually get into this week's show. So why don't we do that? We're going to stop off and talk TNA Impact Wrestling next.
TNA Impact Wrestling.
Oh, jeez. I forgot to change the damn thing for TNA, but anyway, so I actually missed I went back and watched it, but I felt very confused by this. What happened to Feast or Fired, guys? Like, I like that better. This race for the case thing is just, I don't know. It's so bland. Well, what the hell? Oh, look, the cases have colors now. I don't know. These matches are never anything to write home about, right? This is about them just getting the damn cases and let's go on.
Yeah.
Basically, right, that they get to choose whatever title match they want to be in. Is that how this works? I was confused.
Yeah, it was a little confusing. Paul, I mean, that's what I was getting from it, was that the number 1 gets to choose whatever title he wants to go for, and a stipulation as well. I mean, but what did I miss here?
I have forgotten the rules, so give me just a second at the
please.
link.
But see, the sad thing is all 3 of us watched it, and none of us can remember, and that's bad. and it's not. I would say it's on us.
Okay, all I know is that Trevor Lee got the blue case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the match keeps going on, and the hell, like nobody. What the hell did you do, Larry? You didn't even talk about who got what case.
It doesn't matter. Honestly,
but I think
he does
Matt
it later on.
Matt got one of the cases, right?
So
Jeff got the green case.
Okay, it was Jeff. I know one of the Hardys got the case. And then Eli Drake got a case.
The red.
And then
DCC got the yellow.
DCC got the okay.
Mm-hmm. So I mean,
oh wow, this is really contrived. Okay, so you're fighting for the cases, right? Inside the cases are numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The person who draws the case with the number 1 goes first, and they get to choose their match and stipulation for whatever championship they want. And every number afterwards can't choose the same type or the same stipulation for their match, right? So the winner, for example, the example they give, for example, if the winner of the case with the number 2 wants to challenge for the world title, and number 1 has already decided that they want to compete for that one, they can't do that.
Okay. So Paul just gave you the information you need to know in about, 15 seconds? And I watched an entire episode of TNA and didn't get any of that. So that's a problem.
That's, Josh Matthews is such a terrible announcer that, look, he is, but this whole thing has just never been the greatest concept alive. I mean, other than the fact that it's basically like a Money in the Bank. It used to be like a Money in the Bank you could just cash in whenever. I mean, I'm glad people aren't getting fired at least, but I don't know. It just, look, I get it that this was the same people. It's not a new crew yet. Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantel and whoever else the hell is going to be involved in this is not doing this yet. I think in the next tapings they said they would have this all figured out, who's going to be doing what, and this is kind of I think you really needed to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say, you know what, I don't care about your storylines that you had going on before we took you over. This is brand new TNA. This is no longer even called TNA. This is Impact Wrestling, which, seriously, I think they could have just called it something else entirely, because Impact Wrestling doesn't have the greatest cachet either at this point. But, a lot of this show still felt like, hey, we're TNA. Nothing changed about us. We're TNA. Yeah. That's a problem.
Especially that segment. It is a big problem. But
the segment with I talked about with Aaron Rex later, it's the same BS. Like, I made a tweet I posted a tweet, and I got the most likes and retweets I ever had, where I said, shouldn't TNA be above the WWE comedy shit by now? This was total, let's have a WWE comedy match for 5 minutes. Why are we doing this, TNA? Be different. Be better, please. Just, I don't...
I agree, and I want to talk about that one specifically. But before we get to that point, I definitely want to talk about these briefcases for sure. And let's talk about the talk show. That was not much of a talk show. Because
hold on, we're going like way in 50 different circles here. So
don't you want to talk about the briefcases and get this out of the way?
Okay, so the first briefcase that comes up has nothing to do with that. So okay. The first briefcase doesn't come up until, like what you said, Gary, Eli Drake's talk show, which I was very confused with what was going on in this thing, too. So you have Trevor Lee at one point, because Eli Drake's doing that thing where he doesn't talk, right? So Tyrus is talking for him. And so you have Eli Drake on with all the other people that won the cases. So Jeff Hardy got the first number 1, DCC got number 2, Trevor Lee got number 3, and Eli Drake got number 4. So they all reveal Eli Drake reveals his number. They all laugh because he's got number 4, and basically they just reveal their numbers.
It's dumb.
I don't know. I found this not funny.
The laugh track, all the I get it. It's Eli Drake's show. That's what they do. But it was too much silliness. It was too goofy. If these briefcases are actually supposed to matter, they definitely didn't make me feel that way. It was just so corny, silly, dumb.
I felt like I was wasting my life away watching this. I didn't laugh once. I found none of it interesting or very just all. And not only that, the DCC were basically being mimes, looking like complete idiots. Why would you even be as scared of those guys? Why even be intimidated by those guys when they act like that?
Well, you're
I'm
not,
sorry.
because you already know that one of them's James Storm, so what is there to be intimidated by?
Well, I know, but I mean...
Crushed it. Sean gets it.
Just because he's Sean... I get it here. Okay. But anyway, let's move past that. Cause
Paul doesn't like James
him.
Storm?
Yeah, that was cheap.
That was Gary.
That was so cheap, Sean. You knew how to push his button and you won.
Right.
Okay?
Hey, that's what we do on this show? No.
Yeah. You wait. Anyway, so I'm just making the point of...
Wait, so do I need to press the Gary After Dark button on you?
Not right now.
Okay.
The Eva Lee's thing was a little bit of Gary After Dark. If you want to hear more about her pregnancy, Gary After Dark is a show to go check out.
The show that's never going to happen, apparently.
Hey, everybody's got to be conceived somehow. But let's talk about the fact that, this is just really did nothing for anybody. At all. Even Jeff Hardy looks like an idiot because he can't keep the briefcase open. So,
well, that's the thing with his eyes.
he keeps his eyes closed so we can see. But
right.
It's just, I don't know, guys. I'm going to rant and rave about this too long, Paul.
It's not like any segment they ever did when this was Feast or Fired was ever a home run or anything either. It's a reveal segment. Here's what the guys have. Jeff Hardy's getting a world title shot pretty much is what you're going to get out of this. DCC is going for the tag belts. Trevor Lee gets to go after the X Division title, which doesn't matter at all. Eli Drake gets stuck with the championship that very few people care about. So, I mean, it's not like it's shocking or anything. Here's what it is. Let's just move on.
I know you guys hated the Grado one, but I love the Grado getting fired. Yes. That was just funny.
Well, but not only that, and I know Paul's saying this doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, this was worse than that one. And I know it wasn't a home run and it was nothing great. At least that one had some seriousness to it. It felt like that was important. And it may have been corny, but it was important. This felt like they were laughing in my face that I was paying attention to it. It literally felt like they were in the back going, this guy's wasting like 15 minutes of his time watching. I can't believe he's watching this. Whereas the other one felt like, hey, pay attention. This could be the case. Who's going to get fired? It actually kept you holding on.
That nobody ever actually stayed fired from.
Well, except Chavo Guerrero.
Well, except Velvet Sky.
Okay, 2 people out of the, what,
one,
10 times
did
they
Chavo
ran it?
come back? I thought he got fired and never came back either.
I don't remember coming back, but he could have. I just know he went to Luch Underground right after that.
Then that means he stayed fired then.
Yeah. So, but you're right. We're wasting a lot of time on something that doesn't matter. I'm just pissed off because of the fact that I really felt like the Eli Drake show is good for what it's worth. They should never have this show if he can't talk. And when you do something with this many people, it's worse. Tyrus does him no good. It's just dribbling crap.
It's a vehicle to try to get Tyrus over. They're trying to do something with the guy. I mean, they're trying to do something with what they got. Which, with Anthem and Anthem being in the situation that they're in with TNA, I don't know if they stick to the model because that's what's getting them ratings over there on the Fight Network or whatever. But, I mean, I agree there needs to be change. I don't know how much Anthem is actually going to change, though.
Your ratings have dipped well, they actually went up this week. But, geez, they're not going up that much.
And if you want to get ratings up, have Tyrus wrestle in trunks.
Well, you want to know
There's
what
a draw.
He's packing? Is that what?
Yeah.
Anyway,
move on.
Now I'm gonna sit here. Okay, see, this is the problem. We've been making bad jokes, and now I'm gonna get very pissed about somebody making a terrible joke. Aaron Rex is playing this sort of Liberace, Gorgeous George gimmick, whatever. He isn't pulling it off in the best way. Rockstar Spud is wearing, his best George Michael impression with the police outfit or whatever the hell that's supposed to be. And then you got Robbie E, the ultimate bro, and Hornswoggle. For God's sakes. Why? Just why?
We talk a
number
lot
one-
about C teams, guys. There's a C team if I've ever heard it.
What? No. And then, like, you got Josh Matthews going. Aaron Rex is transitioning, guys. Like, fuck. Come on, Josh Matthews. Like, dude. Just shut up and don't say that. Like, come on, man. Like, don't crush the character before it gets started. Like, what are you doing? And then Pope's over here, like, saying a bunch of stupid crap, too. Well, Pope's just stupid anyway. But, like, I mean, well, I'm sorry. I mean, Pope was a good wrestler and all, but, like, the dude on commentary is just a total horrible gimmick. And I don't know. The two of them together is just, I feel like my intelligence is assaulted the entire time I'm watching. Like, you know what? I was watching the show on mute, and I felt like I learned more. Let's be honest. Like,
That's awesome.
I'm being honest. I watched the show on mute because I was having to record somebody else's show, and I think I learned more because I didn't have. I don't want to keep harping on this, but seriously, Josh Matthews, 2017. You got to get with the pro. Even if you don't agree with it, you got to get the program, man. Just it ain't right.
You know, the Aaron Rex thing is interesting. I get it. You want to have a new character for him. You want to move him in a different direction. It's fine. If this is what he chose, that's cool too. I think the Rockstar Spud thing's not so bad. I mean, he kind of fits that. He's a small little guy that, you know, is kind of comical. I've always been. I still enjoy Rockstar Spud. At the end of the day, though, this was not all that great. The match wasn't that great. I mean, I don't know. I think they need to find other ways to really get Aaron Rex going with this. You know, if he's transitioning, send him to the women's bathroom or something. I don't know. That's interesting. I want to watch that compared to, you know,
Jeez,
what we're getting here. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, don't you think? I mean, come on, Sean. Do you want to go in there and just Tessmacher's, you know, coming out of the stall? Like, what are you doing here? You know,
I don't want to.
Sean
be
makes this
creepy guy.
impassioned bit about not wanting Josh Matthews to make these kind of jokes, and then here comes Gary.
I'm telling you, I would find it entertaining. Okay, I mean,
what? Wait, what? Why?
It isn't it entertaining for Tessmacher to be coming out of the bathroom and like, oh,
why?
Hey, they could give hair tips to each other and stuff. I think it'd be cool. It'd be fun. I mean, it's definitely better than what we got in that match.
What's even happening anymore?
Aren't you doing the same thing at that point? Like,
listen, I miss the bathroom scenes. I'm not watching Lucha right now. Okay, Lucha Underground is gone.
God.
I need my bathroom scenes, guys.
Okay. Man.
Look, here's the thing, right? They gave him this gimmick. We're 2 weeks in. They've already TNA'd it up a little bit, right? There's a stutter step with the announcing. He's not in anything that keeps you interested. And once again, this new thing doesn't make him feel fresh. He doesn't feel invigorated. He doesn't feel like he's committing to this character.
This feels like the Liberace version of Damian Sandow.
Yes.
It's not different, like what Paul's saying. It's very much just an extension of something he's already done. Look, he has just not been. He's not been hitting it. Let's just say that. All right. So, you know, I just don't know what we're. I want to give it a shot because maybe he is you know, a smart guy. He could maybe turn it around or whatever with the character. I'm not feeling almost nothing he does. It's just he's just a dude. To me, ever since he's been in TNA, just, you know, where like Drew Galloway has totally come in, and I love everything that dude has been doing. I wasn't totally up with the stand-up thing; that was kind of silly. But other than that, like just his attitude and everything, I'm totally down with that. Like, you know, Moose he's been doing good. Mike Bennett's been whatever, but not everybody comes in from another company and hits the ground running. Just, I don't know. Now that we're done with the comedy part of TNA, we can get to the serious part of TNA.
No, but I do want to add in Aaron Rex. It makes me kind of sad. It really just because I want to see him succeed. I want to see him do well, and that's all seriousness. That gimmick, it's a change. It could be better. But, I really do hope he finds his spot. I don't know. I just think it's kind of sad. Like you were talking about Galloway, you feel good. You're happy for him. But right now, it's Sandow. I'm just not.
And lastly, just absolutely, lastly is a treasure to watch every week. So,
exactly.
Well, and EC3 too. But, so, speaking of these guys, I made that point to get on to the serious part of TNA. Lashley comes out and he talks about, hey, look, man, I had to get EC3 out of the title picture, so I made that match, and now it's me and Eddie Edwards. And Lashley calls Eddie not a fighting champion, and he relies on flukes and poor officiating, and even Davey Richards getting in and saving him. Lashley wants a 30-minute Iron Man match so he can beat him over and over and over again. And Eddie Edwards accepts because he is a glutton for punishment. And then he says that he is going to prove that Lashley is his bitch. And of course, Lashley beats some ass because, he ain't going to take it like that. And Richards, of course, Mr. Dave Richards has to come in and make the save because that's the storyline we're going with right now. Does it feel like you guys, like we're going into a Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards feud possibly here? Because that's what I've been getting since Davey came back. And I feel like this might be the time that Eddie finally loses.
This is a great promo by Lashley. Really fits in with everything he's been about since he's turned into this destroyer character that they made up for him. Maybe the only good thing that came out of the Beatdown Clan was Lashley being this guy. And you have the other side of the story here, which is the Wolves, right? And what they're going to do with Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards. And that ever since Richards said, I've been a little jealous of Eddie Edwards since I've been away, that's you knew this was the story they were going to go with, right? So I'm actually looking forward to both. Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards did good stuff in Ring of Honor whenever they did this. It's a little bit of a retread if you've seen that, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. I want to see what these guys are going to do.
Yeah, I agree. And, it'll be fun. I think I'm really interested in seeing how that feud, really does come to a head because of the fact of, is it going to be, Eddie Edwards getting screwed over by his best friend, or is it going to be the fact that, he didn't come to his aid and help him beat Bobby Lashley? It's going to be one of the two, or some version of that. That's what I'm really excited about finding out, So it'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. I've been enjoying this. Anytime Lashley's been involved with Eddie Edwards, it's been a really good promo. The match has been good. Just the dynamic between the two has been, I love it. So having another match between these two, totally down for that. Maria is basically getting into this thing with Braxton Sutter where she pretty much tells Braxton Sutter that, hey, Allie's training is ruining my life, and you need to, stop training Allie. And you need to go find you Laurel, and I don't know, she says it in her little way here, but basically almost like, hey, you better stop training Allie or else kind of thing. And so he winds up going to get Laurel and kind of dumps Allie when he really doesn't want to. And Allie, of course, gets upset. And you get to see Mr. Braxton Sutter taking Laurel to her car. And I think that's the last you see of these two for the night or whatever. And you also get Maria and Brooke talking here. Brooke's never been, the greatest promo person or anything. Basically, Brooke tells Maria, hey, look, I've been a 3-time knockout champion. I ain't scared of you. All this, kind of I'm going to put you in your place kind of deal. And you have Brooke and Deonna Purrazzo. And, hey, Deonna Purrazzo is, she is traveling everywhere at this point. She's done Impact many times. She's, done NXT, done ROH, done Japan, everything. And she's back here on Impact doing roles because Brooke is taking forever to get her thing going. So Deonna Purrazzo's like, I need to keep myself busy. And yeah, I mean, this match was good. You get Brooke hitting the big, I don't remember what she used to call that move. But yeah,
I think Brooke Tessmacher is a good breath of fresh air for this division. It's another knockout for him to work with and to sort of help keep that scene freshed up that you have now with Jade and Rosemary sort of at the top. You can now work Brooke into that. Hopefully we'll have Allie in there once we get done with all this Maria nonsense. But it looks like they're going to work Brooke into whatever they're doing over there too. So lots of stuff happening in the knockout division, which is better than what they were doing whenever they had Maria and Gail Kim hijacking it. I don't want to say I'm fully interested, but it's nice to see Brooke back. I've always been a fan of her work.
Yeah, I mean, Brooke being back is interesting, and it's, like Paul already pointed out, it's nice to have some depth to this knockouts division because they've really needed it. They've needed to change things up and add some more flavor to it, so it's working the right way. I'm really still kind of curious and interested and a little bit invested in what's going on with the Alley being trained and all that, and how things are working out with Braxton Miller and of course with Maria, trying to sabotage it all. The whisper that was in, his ear, Braxton Miller's ear, really wants you to use your imagination to find out what that is. And I think a lot of us probably come to the conclusion that she basically told him that she would fire maybe Allie or something like that. But I was thinking to myself, really, if it was something that bad, is he really consider her getting fired that bad? I really want to know more. Like, I want to know.
Loves her or whatever,
Yeah, but if he loves her, he's like, you know what? You don't need her. I'm gonna train you, and you're gonna become.
I can just go get married to you and not in TNA. No.
Yeah, no, I just think you say, you know what? You don't need her. I'll train you to be a wrestler and get signed by TNA instead of working for Maria. But anyway, that's a lot of stuff. I'm just saying it does kind of leave you a little bit more compelled. I still like it. I still like what's going on here.
Any thoughts on this?
Go ahead. They continued to move it along. This is one of the better feuds. I told something new is happening every week. Something you get to learn about each of the characters. And I mean, Maria's a great foil in all this too, despite the only setback really being the Gail Kim stuff in her time here. She's been way more entertaining than Michael Bennett has been.
Totally agree. Well, we already knew that going in.
Yeah, I mean, shocker, but yeah.
The miracle has not been Mike Bennett, certainly. So, next week, we're going to get that knockout title Monsters Ball match between Rosemary and Jade. That's going to be pretty good, you know that. And then you get the world title Iron Man match between Eddie Edwards and Lashley. My God, if that doesn't raise the ratings, I don't know what else is going to. And the whole night they've been doing these looking back at the past stuff with Drew Galloway, and they looked at some things with Moose and all that. So they've really been building up this match between Moose and Drew Galloway for the Grand Championship or whatever. Of course, this has the rounds and whatnot, but this was overall, I thought, a really good match. They did the thing with the rounds great, with Drew Galloway winning with that Claymore decisively. And Galloway gets the title that he gets to, with the low blow and the Claymore. I forgot to mention the low blow there. Because, Galloway is supposed to be a heel and all. But I like the fact that Galloway wins that title he's been talking about winning back for so many months or whatever. He finally does it. He doesn't do it in a, clean way, but he does it.
I enjoyed this match a lot. The story was, playing into all that Drew Galloway had accomplished since he showed up here. How he was really sort of the guy that seemed like he was gonna walk away out of that tournament that they had for the championship way back with it, and the injury obviously cost him that, and that's sort of played into this match too. So now he finally gets to make good on everything that he was working on going towards the tournament, and we can see what they're going to do out of that. But they have the belt on the absolute right guy. Unless they find somebody else who can really work this style like Drew can, I don't know if it's ever going to be really worth moving the title around all that much.
Yeah, this is solid. I think this is, what needs to happen. Moose losing the title, it's actually kind of a good thing because it helps grow him. It continues on, and he can try to get it back and things like that. And not only that, Galloway is a big player in TNA, and if there's anybody that can possibly kind of make that title matter, to me, honestly, it sucks. I think Drew Galloway could be that guy.
Certainly. Drew Galloway has been awesome in TNA, so whatever he's doing, totally on board. So that is your Impact Wrestling.
Impact. That's right. There you go. I like that. But yeah, that is your Impact for this week. And of course, we'll have more great stuff for you next week with that. But now we are going to move on and talk about Superstar of the Week. That's right. We got one for you. We'll be right back with that right after this.
Superstar of the Week.
All
right. Let's get into the first person that we have on our list. And with 1 point, we got TM61.
We all really enjoyed that tag match that they had over on NXT against the Revival. No small shocker if you listen to our show and you listen to us gush there. It's a real shame that they take the injury there, but it's enough to get them a point going towards Superstar of the Year rating. So good for them.
With 2 points, we got Cesaro and Sheamus.
Oh, really enjoyed the match between Sheamus Cesaro and Gallus and Anderson. The ending kind of sucked, but doesn't take away from the work that these guys did before then.
And we just talked about this guy, but we got to give him 3 points. Drew Galloway.
Yeah, Drew Galloway finally gets to capture that Grand Championship over there on Impact Wrestling. Looks pretty good in doing it. Gets to make good on all the promises he was making going into that tournament finale with Aaron Rex that totally would have gone the other way probably if he hadn't gotten injured. But still, congrats to him. It was a great match and a well-deserved title victory for him.
We're going to go over the pond and give 4 points to Pete Dunne.
Oh, Pete Dunne was wonderful in that UK tournament. He was the uber heel, terrific story with Mark Andrews and Sam Gradwell and, of course, Tyler Bate as well in his matches. The final was, of course, the best match, but that semifinal with Mark Andrews was also terrific as well. So, man, everything Pete Dunne did in that tournament was memorable and fantastic.
And that means we got one more person to share with you, and that person is our Superstar of the Week. With 5 points, we got to give it to Tyler Bate.
What more can you really say, right? The guy came out of nowhere pretty much to win that tournament. Nobody, I think, had him picked. Has a good to great match with everybody in that tournament working up to it. Totally got the crowd behind him. For Pete Dunne was the MVP, but Bate probably coming up right behind him in that vote race.
And there you go. So congratulations to Tyler Bate. Hopefully more maybe some more points for him this year. That's really cool that he got a chance to be the first UK champion. I really think that's super cool for him. And only 19 years old. It's amazing. But yeah, that is our show for this week, guys. We appreciate everybody who came and checked us out tonight. Don't forget to go subscribe to the W2M Network if you're not already subscribed. Also, W2Mnet.com. It's the place where you want to find all the written reviews we have for you. Plus, you can find all our podcasts there as well and a lot more great content. And, Sean, we have a few other shows on the network that we may need to plug. So why don't you go ahead and give us some shout-outs what we got going on this week.
Well, this week we have a Running Wild podcast. They had an interview with Bobby Fish, so you want to go listen to that. And they talk about the UK tournament and various other things on their show. You had, the Facing the Pain podcast. They had an interview with Scott Noble, an up-and-coming MMA guy. He also kind of got YouTube fame for knocking the guy he was fighting out in like 5 seconds. He kicked him in the side of the head, and he's down. You can, I think we're kind of light on the podcast this week, really. I think a lot of the podcasts kind of took off. But, yeah, make sure you check in every week because you never know what you're going to get. And then several podcasts coming on the horizon as well. So, one even coming next weekend. Royal Rumble night, right before we talk about the Royal Rumble Soccer to the Max, we'll be coming on the airwaves talking about that U.S. men's game against Serbia and various other things. So
Awesome. So we got lots of great content coming your way. Don't miss a minute of it. Like I said it for W2Mnet.com. Go do it now. Go check it out, and then you'll find all this content that we have to offer. Besides that, we appreciate you once again, and we will catch you guys next week. But until then, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.
What did I do with the damn song?
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.